started the day after the opening address by Ms. Rekha Menon, a fantastic address by Dr. Devi Shetty. And we also want to end it on a great note with an address by another doctor. So we have with us Dr. Arvind Kasaragod. He's the director of Medical Services Cloud9. And he's not just a doctor, practicing doctor, a pediatrician. He's also an MBA. And it's quite surprising that he is done in the medical, economics. And he's also a person who implemented a lot of technology wherever he visited. And he's a keen user of technology for his own personal use, and also a healthcare entrepreneur. Over to you, Dr. Arvind, for a wonderful session, which I'm going to really looking forward to listen to you. And I will take the questions and answers at the end of the session. Thank you, Doctor.
Hey, thanks, Raghu, and it's a absolutely pleasure to be with the NASSCOM team. You're one of my favorite teams, as you know it. I've been associated with you for a while. First of all, I think the talks have been fabulous, starting from Devi's talk all the way down to the last speaker, who have addressed a lot of things that I'm probably going to say. One thing I would request, Raghu, is I usually don't talk my talks with the last slide. Can I go to my first slide? Thank you. Anyway, so the topic, of course, is reapplying the minds for quick adoption. So let's go to the next slide. What does reapplying adoption mean? Adoption, is there a slide before this? Okay, just go ahead, no problem. Next slide. So adoption means the action of fact of choosing to take up or follow the use of something. So basically, you're going to use something. And what does reapplying mean? Next slide. It should be applied in a different context. So to understand this, we need to understand what the context is when we want to shift to a different context. That is when you need to adopt, and we need to reapply our minds. So next slide. So I'm going to break this up into a few parts. So how was healthcare before the pandemic? I'm going to talk to you purely on a doctor's perspective. Human interaction was the bedrock. Everybody felt that there has to be a face-to-face. The doctor felt it that way. The patient absolutely felt it that way. Protocols were considered sacrosanct, but actually, but that was only in academic circles. When people actually came to implementation, it did not happen. More was less. More visits, more tests, more equipment, more regulations. All of this was how it was before the pandemic. Extremely inflexible system. If the doctor says something, you got to follow it. So it's a very doctor-centric system. And as people have alluded to before, not only are we are not actually averse to innovation. We do use technology, but the technology has to suit our workflow, and then that's when we actually prefer. Otherwise, we definitely will kill any innovation before it even comes to the table. And right now, private healthcare is the preferred. I mean, before the pandemic, private healthcare is the preferred mode of healthcare, and there were multiple regulatory bottlenecks. So, what happened during the pandemic? Next slide. Yeah. Everything turned. Go back before. Yeah. Thanks. Everything turned upside down. No one wants to come to the hospitals and clinics anymore. So that takes away your face-to-face completely. And apart from providing care for the patients, it actually stops the generation of revenue for both the doctors and the hospitals. So that is something that nobody wanted to see. Visits for healthcare decreased dramatically, and this included emergencies. You're not seeing patients with heart attacks, strokes coming into the hospital. Why is that? We don't know that. So what has happened? Cost of healthcare has decreased. I'm sure most of you listening have not seen a doctor in the last 40 days for sure, and have not spent a single penny, except maybe those who are on, what you can get from your local pharmacy. So what did all of this do? Telemedicine was suddenly accepted. People said, you know what, I need to provide care for my patients. My patients say I need to avail care. So telemedicine, so far we've been struggling to get it implemented in a big way. It has been, in fact, Devi Shetty was one of the pioneers who started it long time ago. In fact, more than a decade ago. And now suddenly there's a boom. Everybody is doing telemedicine. It's a fabulous thing that has happened during the pandemic. Innovation has boomed. All of you, everyone has spoken about innovation. Low cost ventilators, low cost TPs. Absolutely great, fabulous. It's all been done fabulously well, and it's been done really quickly as well. So we are now having low cost equipment. Regulations were relaxed. Before you know it, there's a telemedicine guidelines that have been floated. The PCPNDT. I mean, may not be the best thing to happen, but at least there was a slight change in regulations there. So a lot of things which were needing to happen happened thanks to the pandemic. So though this is a really bad time, I think it's a fabulous time for hitting the reset button for healthcare, especially so in India. I think it's now is the time when you see people are the government and private are working together like no time ever before. Government patients in private hospitals, private patients in government hospitals. It is a fabulous thing. However, government healthcare has become the savior. From being the last resort for most patients, it has become the first resort for every patient. So that's a significant change. I mean, this is something that really something that needs to happen. So what should happen after the pandemic? Let's see that. So this is going to be the critical phase. Just having this happen during the pandemic is not really going to solve our solution, because like everybody else, previous speakers have said, the pandemic eventually is going to go away, but our healthcare is going to stay. So what do we need to do? We need to reapply our minds and adopt quickly and consolidate the gains that all that we have achieved so far during the pandemic. What do I mean by that? Nitesh just spoke about the bag mask ventilation. I have personally seen in my career as a pediatric intensivist, children on a ventilator with the parents pressing the bag to keep their babies ventilated, purely for the lack of ventilators. And they used to do that for hours at a time, taking turns between father and mother. My questions were two. Why weren't these 70,000 bag mask ventilators available before? And what stops us from making them after the pandemic? I do agree that with Devi that sometimes we get familiar with equipment, but then I think having a ventilator of low cost, which is new to the system, in a government setup which does not have any kind of ventilator and expects the parents to do the bag and mask ventilation, will totally benefit for it, and it will be a total benefit not only for the patient but also for the hospital system and the entire healthcare system. So whatever we have done now, whether it is protocols so that have been put in place, let's ensure that the telemedicine guidelines are fortified even more. In fact, if you look at the telemedicine guidelines today, it says that psychotropic drugs cannot be prescribed by telemedicine. The question is, why not? What prevents? It's the same psychiatrist who's prescribing the same medication to the same patient. Just the difference is the platform is different. Even otherwise, the psychiatrist usually does not have to do a physical exam. So in fact, if anything needs to be liberalized in telemedicine, it has to be in a specialty like psychiatry. So let's strengthen the guidelines that have already come out. Let's make sure that that is done. So what all these things will do is it will help healthcare to become affordable and available to all. So doctors, patients, and providers should learn to adapt to the new normal, and by adopting what has happened and whatever gains we've had during the pandemic. The cooperation between all the stakeholders, like I mentioned, whether it's the patient, the private healthcare, and the government healthcare, should all be working together. One of the things that I think most people have not mentioned, and this I will have to bring it up here, is the reason why innovation and technology has not taken off in a big way in India is because we do not have outpatient insurance. Everybody in healthcare knows outpatient healthcare is 90% of healthcare. 10% or so is what is inpatient healthcare. Lot of innovation is not getting done or implemented because we don't have outpatient insurance and there is no payer for it. So will the patient pay for it? Who is going to pay? Will the hospitals pay for it? Will the private hospitals pay? I'm not sure. So if we had outpatient insurance, that would be a big hurdle that can be crossed. And that's the need of the hour, because if 90% of our healthcare is not being covered by insurance, 90% of our people are not getting healthcare, which means preventive healthcare is out of the picture, and we are working on the tertiary healthcare or curative healthcare, which means you're behind the 8 ball. That cannot happen. And that is why we need to have outpatient insurance for all the things that we've spoken about today to happen. Next slide, please. So the questions to us and to the larger audience and to the government, to any stakeholder in the system, will we actually reapply our mind? Will we go back to where we are? Will patient behavior change? Will doctors change? Will medical societies and associations change their protocols and guidelines to make it in such a way that it is more cost effective and practical and meaningful? Will the private health sector change? Will there be more partnership with the government hospitals? Will we continue to encourage innovation? Will government sustain the changes that have happened, or is it going to change once the government changes? We need to be worried about that as well. Will we finally have affordable healthcare for all? I have questions here, and I'm not a prophet, so I'm not going to be able to answer the questions, but I think this is something that all of us have to think about. Last slide, please. For all our sakes, I hope the answer to the question I asked in the previous slide is a yes. And I hope we do what is required. Thank you so much, and I hope I stayed on time.
Thank you, Dr. Arvind. As usually, always, mesmerize us with some tricky questions. Whenever you are there on our discussions, I always say, like a doctor who doesn't hesitate to ask questions. So I have one questions from the audience. What are your thoughts on the future of using mobile technology for diagnostics?
Absolutely required. I mean, I think mobile platforms will become the way to go. And I'm a firm believer of point of care diagnosis. And there is absolutely no reason for patients to be coming to a lab, to a hospital for any of this. We can provide point of care machines, and they are ridiculously cheap. I mean, we have fabulous innovators within our ecosystem, young guys who have come up with, paper-based testing or, point of care testing, which costs like, hemoglobin to be tested for 2 rupees, 10 rupees, which can then be loaded onto the mobile phone through the cloud. It is available to the doctors, available to the hospitals. So absolutely, mobile technology is the future of healthcare, not only for teleconsults, but even as command centers for the tele-ICU that Dr. Shetty was talking about.
So we were listening to many seminars and webinars in the last few days, and everybody is like, people are talking about the doctor's fatigue in these COVID times. But yet we see a lot less patients walking into the hospitals, which has reduced the burden for the doctors. And how is this trend going to be post-COVID scenario for the doctors? Do you have any say on how it's going to be on the footfalls, especially?
Yeah. So I mean, I think everybody talks of the much cliched new normal, and I think that is we really need to brace for that. And I think it's all good. I think visits to the hospitals were too many to begin with, and now people will think twice about coming in. And telemedicine is a great way of doing it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if doctors actually choose to say, I will come into clinic 3 days a week, 2 days a week, or 3 days a week. I sit at home and do teleconsults. And if I need to see any patients, the other 3 days, I will see patients who actually I need to touch, feel, examine, and do tests. So I personally feel that this will actually improve the quality of life of doctors. I think this is something that's going to happen, and I think it's a big, big positive out of this whole.
Yeah. If you have to say one technology which actually transformed the way healthcare is delivered in the last 1 month, what is that one technology?
Okay, I'm not a tech guy, but I think it's cloud.
Okay.
I think
Great.
the ability to do cloud computing has enabled us to do so many things. And I think all the things that were spoken about by the previous speakers would not have been possible if we did not have cloud computing.
Thank you, Dr. Arvind. Thank you so much for joining us. I think it's time for us to end a fantastic feast of activities, feast of sessions which have been presented by the eminent speakers and interesting entrepreneurs across